Hello and welcome back to this Tovi tutorial. In this session, we're going to learn about creating a timeline, then creating analysis, and then having a quick look at the data. First, we want to create a timeline. Now from the data set I've brought in an eddy profile that contains the data from 2013. Below that, you'll see a timeline. This timeline that's created here is based on the data set I brought in with the beginning date and the end date found in the data files. I'm going to go ahead and add in the entire data set into my timeline here. When I'm ready with that, I go ahead and hit the Create button. Now the next page I land on is where I create the analysis. I can click on the New Analysis button here, or just Create Navigate. Now I might want to do an analysis over the whole 2013 data set, but I could also choose to subsection my data down, for example, to a season or a month. In this case, let's do the month of July. I can then use these sliders to drag the dates and times to where I want. Alternatively, I can go ahead and click the start dates using this calendar feature here. I'll go ahead and find July 1st, and we'll start at 12 o'clock. And we'll go ahead and end on July 31st. And we'll also use 12 o'clock. Now next, what you'll notice down here is whether you want to include the external weather data in your analysis. If it hasn't downloaded yet, you won't be able to hit the Create button. So usually the ERAI data may take a little bit more time, say 20 to 30 minutes to download, depending on the data size. The ISD data tends to download a little bit more quickly. If you want to go ahead and create and not wait for this to download, you can uncheck this box and then go back and click the Create button. But for this analysis, we want to bring in this weather station data and include it as we go forward. Let's click the Create button. And now we're going to see a full coverage data plot as soon as this loads in. And here we are at our coverage plot. And what you'll notice here are some lines indicating the data coverage. Now instead of showing up to 200 variables that are coming with the Eddy Pro output, we've decided to group them into categories such as fluxes or meteorology and so on. Now here you can see, for example, our flux category has about 60% data coverage over this July timeframe, while the radiation has 100% coverage. If I want to have a more detailed look, I can click on the flux group here, and here are the variables associated with my fluxes. For example, I can see the CO2 flux was a little bit spotty before we had a little gap here in the data, and it continues. I can also choose to zoom in by clicking the magnifying glass and then drawing a small box here and look at the data in detail. You can actually see that each point represents the half-hour fluxes calculated, and I can see exactly where I might have a problem or an issue with the data that I need to resolve or fix with gap filling. Now I can also have some other ways to look at the data. I have data visualization up here on the top menu. I can also go to a time series of plots, which simply show, again, my groups across the top and the variables displayed over time. I also have an opportunity to look at footprint analysis, which we haven't done yet, and our fingerprint plots. If I click here, this is another way to have a good overall coverage view of our variables. Let's, for example, find net radiation. When I pick that variable here, what you'll notice is the day plotted up here, of course the month of July in this case, or you could select the whole entire year depending on your analysis period. Then across the bottom axis here we have time of day, and you can see that the colors are an indication of a heat map of the values for those particular variables. And you can always load in additional variables, for example, temperature of the soil, and so on. Again, these are the plots available for a quick visualization of your data.